They are grabbing the equivalent of a somewhat encrypted Discord server. And they're mad when the DMs get leaked. Anyway, now that that's done, let's talk about something absolutely terrifying. Did you hear about what happened with the Signal app? Did you hear? So, my experience with Signal was a friend of mine being more, concerned about security, asking us to talk on the Signal app instead of, say, Discord, which is my usual, in order to exchange addresses so that we could hang out. That was my major experience with the Signal app prior to today. And then today, I wake up and find out that turns out everything in my world has been topsy-turvy. Apparently, instead of having security briefings like a normal administration, the Trump administration talks about bombing people on the Signal app together. Now, there is an argument to be made that they do this so that they are able to hide this information more easily because it's not going to be as publicly available. But the fact that Trump did not realize that a very interesting thing had happened with this lovely group chat is very telling. And as for what happened, if you did not know, well, there was a reporter for The Atlantic who ended up getting into one of those group chats. Not because he tried to hack his way in or he used some super skills or connections. He got randomly added to the group chat where J.D. Vance and others were talking about bombing Yemen. And he thought that it was some type of fake thing? Because, how do you tell that? How do you tell that that's actually real? How do you figure that shit out? You sit there and you go, no, this can't be real. And then the conversations about bombing Yemen happened. And then within 2 hours of the time that they said that they were going to be bombing Yemen, the Houthis got bombed in Yemen. Now, that is terrifying. Think about it from the perspective of the reporter. You got added to this group chat. You've been literally listening to national secrets for days, and one of those is a country is going to be bombed by us. You have no way to verify that any of this is real. You're a reporter, so you feel like you have a duty to talk about this with people, but you don't because you don't have any way to verify it. And then the bombs start dropping, and now it's all verified. Now we have an operational security failure to rival everything. And the funniest part about it has been the response by the Trump administration. Here, let's go ahead and take a quick look.
Mr. President, your reaction to the story in The Atlantic that said that some of your top cabinet officials and aides had been discussing very sensitive material through Signal and included an Atlantic reporter for that. What is your response to that?
I don't know anything.
All right, so first thing, okay, I love that this enable accessibility thing is here because accessibility is great and all, but when it's actively making your website completely useless to me, I hate that. Anyway, I don't know what this is even doing here. Put it somewhere else. Web designers, please. Anyway, so TLDR for what was said there in case it's harder for audio-only listeners to hear. Trump was asked, hey, what do you feel about this article that was written in The Atlantic about the operational security failure that your administration had by talking about these very sensitive things on the Signal app, where he was invited to the Signal app as well. And Trump's response to this. Now remember, this is verified info. This is real shit that happened. Also, Pillow Demon VT, thank you for the follow. This is real shit that happened. And Trump's response to this is telling.
Officials and aides had been discussing very sensitive material through Signal and included an Atlantic reporter for that. What is your response to that?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of the Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
They were using.
I don't know anything about it, but what I do know is they're a failure. I do not like them. I do not like them at all. They fail. They're bad. They're going out of business. Wait, what the fuck did you say?
Signal to coordinate on sensitive materials and
Having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
What were they talking about on Signal? What were they talking about? What is Signal? Is that a type of cereal?
Houthis.
The Houthis? You mean the attack on the Houthis? Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective. I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time. Anybody else?
So this, if he is not lying, this shows something astounding. Not only is this a major operational security failure on the part of the United States government, it is very unlikely that we are going to actually have allies willing to disclose information to us that is necessary for our national security. They're likely not going to tell us jack shit. And why would they if this is our standards that that our own president goes by? But if he's not lying, not only did we have this failure, but nobody communicated to him at all about this. Now, mind you, this is the man of all people who Steve Bannon believes is going to run for another term, and he is going to be trying to make that happen. Here, take a listen.
Firm believer that President Trump will run and win again in 2028. So I've already endorsed President Trump. A man like this comes along once every century if we're lucky. We've got him now. He's on fire, and I'm a huge supporter. Want to see him again in 2028.
And obviously, anybody who doesn't like what you say but judges it as a function of a lack of intelligence doesn't know anything about you. I don't make that mistake. You're a smart guy. You know he's term limited. How do you think he gets another term?
We're working on it. I think we'll have a couple of alternatives. Let's say that. We'll see. We'll see what the definition. We'll see.
Now, how chilling is that? Just out of curiosity, when Steve Bannon, the guy who was the guy in charge of Trump's entire strategy in 2016, when Steve Bannon tells you, "Hey, we're going to have him run again in 2028," and when asked, "How are you going to do that?" he just goes, "We're working on it. Don't worry. We're working on it. We're going to make it happen. We're going to have some ways to make this work." That is a complete undermining of how our democracy is supposed to function. That is a complete undermining of our democracy. Is it not terrifying to you? Does this not scare the shit out of you? It should.
We'll say what the definition of term limit is.
All right. Well, so you're talking about litigating this issue because I don't want people to listen to our interview and say Bannon's cooking up an insurrection. Bannon is cooking up. You know what I mean? I want people to.
I'm willing to say it, and I'm willing to say it based off of evidence. Bannon is telling me that we're going to have Trump and we're going to keep him past 2028. And we have seen Trump, in an attempt to hold power, have an insurrection be ran against our own capital. I am perfectly willing to say those words because I'm not an idiot and I learn from history.
To get a straight take on where your head is. What are you suggesting?
Chris, as you know, I've had greater long shots than this. When we supported President Trump after the election, I realize you don't believe the election in 2020 is stolen. We do. We fervently believe that.
Okay, that's so cool that you believe that the election there was stolen. Anyway, on to matters that actually matter. That is terrifying to me. Remember, this is the guy who had no idea that his operational security was as bad as it fucking is. He had no idea at all.
I get a message request to connect with Mike Waltz, who's the national security advisor, or someone who's purporting to be Mike Waltz. Not an unusual thing in Washington. I'm a journalist. I've met him in the past. So I accept it. Nothing happens. I sort of forget about it. And then a couple of days later, I'm added to a group of seemingly very, very high national security officials of the United States, up to and including the vice president, J.D. Vance. Mike Waltz puts this group together and says that it's a planning group for essentially upcoming action in Yemen. I think that this is a spoof. I think that someone is running a hoax. So I tracked this for a while, obviously, to see what was going on and see who was trying to entrap me or trick me. And then by Saturday, the 15th, it became abundantly clear that, or at least it became sort of overwhelmingly clear to me that this was a real group.
So
I get a message.
Thought it was going to last longer. I had chicken in my mouth. Anyway. So he's literally saying to all of us, yeah, I had no idea if this was real or not. And then the bombs started dropping. And now it's a bit more real. Now it's a little more real. Can that play? Or is there not actually a video there? Interesting. So it's just all pictures. I thought there was another video because I saw a play button. Is that not how this works, Associated Press? Do play buttons not mean videos? Okay, obviously I have to reload this. No, there we go. Here we are. Bohemian Lucy, thank you for resubscribing.
Talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's...
So this is his knee-jerk reaction, by the way. Pete Hegseth, this is his knee-jerk reaction to being told, hey, by the way, did you know that you had this guy on Signal who was hearing all this, like, sensitive, important, secret shit from America? Did you know that? Did you know that at all? His immediate knee-jerk reaction is, no. He's a bad journalist. He's not a real journalist. He's a so-called journalist. He literally goes into the fake news thing. Anyway.
Made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again, to include the hoaxes of Russia, or the fine people on both sides hoax.
Okay, so the Russia, the stuff that we've proven, the fine people on both sides thing, the stuff that Trump actually said.
Or suckers and losers hoax. So this is the guy that peddles.
The suckers and losers thing, that's not a hoax either. Again, these are all things that Trump has said on record. But remember, this is an administration that will argue that January 2026 wasn't an insurrection, despite all of the video evidence of it.
In garbage. This is what he does. I would love to comment on the Houthi campaign because of the skill and courage of our troops. I've monitored it very closely from the beginning. And you see, we've been managing 4 years of deferred maintenance under the Trump administration. Our troops, our sailors were getting shot at as targets. Our ships couldn't sail through. And when they did shoot back, it was purely defensively or at shacks in Yemen. President Trump said, no more. We will reestablish deterrence. We will open freedom of navigation, and we will ultimately decimate the Houthis, which is exactly what we're doing as we speak from the beginning, overwhelmingly. I've heard I was characterized, nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
So, what do you say, now that we have evidence that war plans were being texted on the Signal app, what do you say as the Secretary of Defense when you have been proven to be a liar? Can we trust Trump when he has no idea any of this shit is happening under his nose? Can we trust Pete Hegseth when he's lying about all this? Let's go ahead and see if there's any more information in the article that we're missing right now. Top national security officials for President Trump, including his defense secretary, texted plans for upcoming military strikes in Yemen to a group chat in a secure messaging app that included the editor-in-chief for The Atlantic. The magazine reported in a story posted online on Monday. The National Security Council said the text chain appears to be authentic. Trump initially told reporters he was not aware that the highly sensitive information had been shared. He later appeared to joke about the breach. The material in the text chain contained operational details of forthcoming strikes on Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen, including information about targets, weapons the U.S. could be deploying, and attack sequencing. Editor-in-Chief Jeffrey Goldberg reported. It was not immediately clear if the specifics of the military operation were classified, but they often are, and at the least are kept secure to protect service members and operational security. The U.S. has conducted airstrikes against the Houthis since the militant group began targeting commercial and military vessels in the Red Sea in November 2023. Just 2 hours after Goldberg received the details of the attacks on March 15th, the U.S. began launching a series of airstrikes against Houthi targets in Yemen. The National Security Council is looking into the matter. Yes, let's investigate ourselves. The National Security Council said in a statement that it would be looking into how a journalist number was added to the chain in the Signal group chat. In addition to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, it included Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Mark Rubio, and Tulsi Gabbard, Trump's Director of National Intelligence. Goldberg said that he received the Signal invitation from Mike Waltz, Trump's national security advisor, who was also in the group chat. Hegseth, in his first comment on the matter, attacked Goldberg as deceitful and a discredited so-called journalist, while alluding to previous critical reporting of Trump from the publication. He didn't shed any light on why Signal was being used to discuss the sensitive operation or how Goldberg ended up in the message chain. Again, this is information that is usually held in an actual security meeting. This is information that is usually kept under lock and key. And you know what people are using for this? Functionally, they are grabbing the equivalent of a somewhat encrypted Discord server. And they're mad when the DMs get leaked. That's functionally what they're doing. Trump on Tuesday in a brief interview with NBC's News also downplayed the incident as the only glitch in 2 months of his administration. And it turned out not to be a serious one. Yes, one of the biggest breaches of operational security in the United States. Not a serious one. Not a serious one. Not at all. Not a serious issue whatsoever. Man. How do you even begin to be this stupid? But of course, in his position, what else can he do? What else can he say? Like, imagine if Trump was honest for once about this. Imagine if Trump was honest for once about this particular scenario. Or in general, but, you know, we can dream. Imagine him saying this was a major oversight by everyone involved. This was a major oversight by my entire Security Council. This was an oversight by J.D. Vance, my vice president. This was an oversight so horrendous that it cannot be overlooked, that it cannot be swept under the rug. This is something that I need to be dealing with right now. As of this exact moment, I have asked J.D. Vance to resign from his post, as he is clearly not doing a good enough job at his post. I have also made sure to fire everyone else that was involved in every single bit of this operation, other than our fine military personnel who executed this operation very well. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that level of accountability from the president? My administration failed on multiple levels, and I'm going to correct it as a businessman by firing the people who were engaged in those top-level failures and replacing them with people who are more qualified and have a better track record as this one. Jassa says, can you just fire a VP or the cabinet? You can ask them to step down from those duties. You can ask them to step down from those duties. you can. Now, you can't necessarily... I don't believe you can actually get rid of the vice president without there being a trial in the Senate or impeachment. You would definitely need the other branches of government involved in that. But this is the kind of thing that should work, right? This is the kind of thing where you should be able to impeach a vice president. Hecklex says, did you hear that the guy that invited the reporter to the chat is now saying they have to figure out how he got into the chat? You know what that reminds me of? The freaking hot dog guy. We need to figure out who drove that hot dog car into here. The Constitution of the United States gives Congress the authority to remove a vice president of the United States from office in 2 separate proceedings. The first one takes place in the House of Representatives, where impeachment happens, and the second one takes place by Senate majority vote during the trial in the Senate, just like the president himself. A competent Congress. Thank you for the hydrate, Noah. I appreciate it. A competent Congress would be drafting articles of impeachment for J.D. Vance right now. And a competent Congress would follow through. Republicans and all. However, instead, the sycophants who do nothing but suck Trump's dongle have changed this to 4D chess. Genius Trump leaks war plans to the Atlantic where no one will ever see them. That was a post from Elon Musk. And yeah, it was satire, but like, come on. How on the nose do you have to be? Bohemian Lucy, thank you for redeeming your points for an ada. You fucking degen. The sharing of sensitive information comes at Hegseth's office just announced a crackdown on leaks of sensitive information, including the potential use of polygraphs on defense personnel to determine how reporters have received information. Sean Parkle, a spokesman for Hegseth, did not immediately respond to requests for comment on why the defense secretary posted operational plans on an unclassified app. The administration's handling of highly sensitive information was swiftly condemned by the Democratic lawmakers. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer called for a full investigation. Good. Now, if only the Republicans are willing to follow through with that. Zulit says, Suris Trump just signed an executive order requiring an ID matching an individual's birth certificate presented in person in order for an individual to be able to vote. Wait, is this because they couldn't get the SAVE Act all the way through? Is this... Wait, did Trump really just go, well, if the SAVE Act isn't going to work, we're just going to push it through immediately? I guess I have to cover that later, too. Fantastic. Fantastic. Article goes in to talk about there being very, very strict laws on how we handle defense information like this. This was a failure on all sides. Again, a competent Congress would be impeaching the vice president. Because you shouldn't be hosting this on the equivalent of a glorified Discord app. Secondly, you should 112% be looking at this as a failure of the administration. And both parties should recognize that. Both parties should be able to recognize that. If they're scared of Trump, we should be able to at least get rid of Vance. It is much and it is tiring. But before we get into the third thing, we're going to play some Magic the Gathering. That all said, please check out my streams if you haven't already, usually between Monday and Thursday. Also, please consider subscribing to the channel, checking out my fourth wall where I've got a playmat where you can pick up so you can rep the channel over at your local card shops. And check out my Patreon. I also have a Magic the Gathering channel. Check that out. And I've also got Blue Sky, all that fun stuff. Also, comment on the video. Comment on the video. I need comments on videos. I need discussion in videos in general. And not like artificial, hey guys, what do you think of this? But like from an actual honest to goodness content creator to audience, the more y'all talk in my comment section, the better things work out for me. Like seriously, if everybody in this chat right now, all 121 of them, went into any video of mine right now and all just started fighting with each other, that video would actually blow up. Like, those are the numbers required for a video to just artificially blow up. It's weird. And I would greatly appreciate y'all helping me take this broken YouTube system and writing it for all it's worth. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and insert end of video tagline here. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. I really could not do any of this without all of you. Those of you watching, and especially those of you who support me on Patreon. I wanted to go ahead and take a minute to thank all of you who do that, because with YouTube being what it is these days, I really cannot do this full-time without the support from each and every one of you. Those people would be Red Joker, Purple Poundini, Jemshin, Briskreek, Jupe the Malignant, Michael, Ravalern, Mabbity Babbity, Astral Frontier, Tales of Atonement, Nixie Chan, Kiri Artemis, Victorian Alchemist, I'm not saying the last part of that, and you know that, Lil Ururaka, Arcton Arclacier, Kiratorian, Dren Hadamata, Jordan M, John L, Lord Bleck, Smiling Game Master, and Fire Shard. Thank you so very much. But since you're here, why not go ahead and try watching another one? There should be one that's on the screen right now. And if you are a patron of mine, I wanted to go ahead and thank you again for all of your support. There is still a video you could press though, if you'd like. I would appreciate it just a little bit.